Hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Identity at Scale. My name is Kimberly Chow, and I'm a specialist security architect here at AWS ASEAN. And joining me today is Amit Gupta, Chief Technology Officer of Canopy. Today, we will be learning about managing identities at scale in the cloud, including controlling access to specific resources so that the principle of least privilege is applied with attribute-based access control and Amazon Cognito. Then, we will hear from Amit, who will take us through how Canopy has successfully used Amazon Cognito as a building block to innovate and build custom authentication at scale. So, what is identity at scale? The concept of identity is no longer just about utility. In the cloud, identity and the way you manage identity is the single foremost most important security service to ensure that your applications remain protected. Not that long ago, we see for many companies, it wasn't that long ago when security was mainly defined by the corporate firewall. Perimeter security was the be-all and end-all of security. Identity was primarily focused on employees. We wanted to mainly authenticate access to internal resources. In terms of resources, there were also a relatively small number of things, primarily focused within your office or on-prem data centers. We also had a few very simple compliance regimes, focused on things such as password strength for your employees, as well as session lockout mechanisms. In terms of its administration, we had centralized security and operations team. As for the cloud, that was just something that merely hampered your suntan. However, with the rise of the use of mobile devices, consumerization of IT, and new privacy laws. So this is where we see the industry heading. Not everyone may be getting there at the same pace. This may vary by your company as well as the industry that you operate in. In terms of security, we think about zero trust architectures and the need for us to authenticate everything. In terms of identity, our responsibility includes employees, partners, contractors, applications, microservices, things, as well as customers. We also have many more resources, trillions of resources at a global scale. And in terms of compliance, we now have complicated and customer-focused privacy standards such as the GDPR. Compliance is no longer limited to just an internal thing. For administration, we now need to think about decentralized DevSecOps. We need to think about empowering developers, but without ceding control. And for the cloud, it is now more common to talk to customers who have many cloud accounts and different software-as-a-service applications. With this new scale come new challenges. Where once there was one identity store, we now have to authenticate over tens of thousands of individuals across multiple regions at different times of the day. As you can see, identity has now become absolutely core to the modern security story. Managing identities is just part of the equation. We also need to think about managing resources, such as files, instances, data stores, etc. It is not unusual for a truly global customer to have to manage hundreds of AWS accounts. That's right. And with hundreds of AWS accounts, you also have thousands of EC2 instances, billions of objects in S3, trillions of DynamoDB items. You get the idea. This now presents a new challenge. Ever-growing number of resources makes it easy for things to get complex. This means that we need to have a more scalable way of managing resources that isn't always at the individual resource level. We now need to think about strategies such as attribute-based access control and how these strategies can help cut through this complexity. So, how do we do this? Managing resources at scale can be broken down into 3 steps. Firstly, finding my stuff, or finding resources that belong only to my project. In this case, I have named my project Project Blue. Secondly, organizing my stuff, grouping all the resources that belong to Project Blue so I can do things like automate patching. Number 3, managing my stuff, only allowing the developers on my team, Project Blue, to access resources that they actually require by virtue of being part of my project. I also want to protect resources in Project Red, as Project Blue developers do not actually need access to this. What I've listed in the previous slide are just some examples of best practices used in attribute-based permissions. For example, granting developers read and write access to only their project resources. Secondly, requiring developers to assign their project to new resources. Thirdly, granting developers read access to resources that are common to just their team. And lastly, managing only the resources that I, as a team lead of Project Blue, owns. AWS provides fine-grained, granular controls and has provided role-based access controls for years. But managing this at scale can at times get complex. Wouldn't it be nicer if you could express an access control rule in a more human-understandable policy? Wouldn't it be cool if those rules automatically scaled and adjusted as properties of your users dynamically change? For example, if our policies could show a human-readable statement, such as all engineers who have taken the course hiring can now access S3 buckets tagged with recruiting. The hypothesis being that security rules that are simple enough for humans to easily understand will lead to the best overall security. Enter attribute-based access control, a concept that has been around in the identity industry for years. Now in AWS, you are able to express attribute-based permissions based on tags that you can manage centrally. Yes, these are the exact same tags that you have used previously when consolidating your billing. With tags, you can now control what permissions Project Blue users have to their specific resources. Likewise, control the fact that Project Blue users will not be able to access Project Red resources. What this achieves is least privilege, or the principle of least privilege, the right to access to the right things at the right time to do their job and nothing more. Now, moving on to consumer identities and beyond those of your internal resources. Amazon Cognito enables customers to add user sign-in, sign-up, and access control to both web and mobile applications. In terms of differentiators, it is the most extensible, but it provides end-user authentication and authorization workflows, which can be customized using out-of-the-box integration with AWS Lambda. It has granular APIs and SDKs on all. It is fully managed in terms of it having a built-in hosted UI and out-of-the-box support for open standards such as SAML and OAuth. It is secure by providing temporary AWS credentials and has advanced security features, such as compromised password database, which prevents users from reusing credentials, as well as adaptive authentication. Cognito works on the idea of identity and user pools. Cognito user pools are for authentication or identity verification. With the user pool, your application users can sign in through the user pool or federate through a third-party identity provider. Cognito identity pools are for authorization or access control. You can use identity pools to create unique identities for your users and give them access to other AWS services. But don't just take it from me. AWS constantly encourages a community of builders, and the best type of builders are our customers that take our services and extend them to fit into their use case. To tell you more about how Amazon Cognito works and the innovative way that Canopy has used Amazon Cognito, let me hand you over to Amit Gupta, CTO of Canopy, to show you how he has used Amazon Cognito in his organization to provide authentication at scale.
Hello everyone to the first ever virtual AWS Summit 2020. I sincerely thank you for listening to our story and hope that it will help you. My name is Amit Gupta and I am the CTO of Canopy.cloud. Back in the late 90s, I was studying and used to run a hosting company on the sides. Thinking about it, I suppose I was studying on the sides. I was moderately successful. Return on investment was 8x. If I could have figured user management and was able to automate mundane tasks, today you would have been talking to the owner of AWS, and AWS would have meant Amit Web Services. We have seen so many successful applications disrupting the set world and creating a new order. All that starts with user management. I have worked with regulated fintech businesses and how one manages users, stores passwords, sends email, verifies users, administers, and tons of those tasks defines who they become. When I was building my own business, we did not have these options. In today's world, luckily we have AWS offering Amazon Cognito, which takes care of these rudimentary tasks, and we need not develop and maintain our own authentication layers anymore. Canopy is a private wealth aggregator and analytics firm. In a nutshell, we are a data company who processes private wealth data in all formats, structured as well as unstructured. Canopy brings the insights to life so investors can make data-driven decisions. To make it easy for you all, Kim, who you saw before me and will see again after my presentation, is a high net worth individual. To hedge risks, HNWIs invest their monies across geographies, across banks, across currencies, and across asset class. High net worth individuals have many stakeholders: bankers, advisors, inheritors, and many more. As said, money has more relations than the person owning it. Wealth data is scattered, is inconsistent, and represented differently all the time. Having money is nice, but managing money is a tiring job, and Canopy makes it easy. Canopy was established in 2014 by Tanmay Sharma, who's a banker. In my view, he decided to give back his money where he earned it from. We pivoted to be a B2B company in 2017, and thereon our fortune is on upswing. We work with leading private wealth banks in Asia and Europe. We have $39 billion worth of assets under reporting and constantly growing. This was the architecture in 2017 when I came in. Mandate given to me was to build a data company, prepare a solid base, bring predictability, make efficiency gains, and up the security profile. The architecture then meant a lot of manual interventions, non-existent observability, and it did not help us to become what we wanted to. We had two products, and both of them were monolithic in nature, not sharing the resources, and a layer of duplication always existed between them, like authentication. Since they could not scale, they were over-provisioned and leaked monies in infrastructure spend. This is how architecture looks now. As you can see, instead of building everything afresh, we have started using AWS managed services such as Cognito, API Gateway, EKS, MSK, RDS, and many more. Cognito coupled with API Gateway provides a single secure entry point for all things Canopy. EKS allows us to run and manage all our containerized workloads without the overhead of managing the Kubernetes control plane. We started with using Rancher Kubernetes engine, and when EKS became available in the Singapore region with Windows support, we migrated to it. To support our data store architecture, where every individual customer has a dedicated database, we use MSK pipeline to sync databases. We went on to just half DevOps resource from 3 full-time resources, and all worries are now transferred to AWS. This whole re-architecture was achieved with the same set of people, and all it took was to focus on why we are doing it. Relearning things the way we knew them, strong fundamentals, and resetting the culture. Now it scales easily when required. It does not cost a fortune to maintain it, and it is aligned with business goals. As Canopy found its product market fit and grew into a default aggregation/analytics choice for private wealth banks and other customers, our customers started integrating us into their day-to-day workflows, and it became obvious that we needed a robust user management system. Our authentication system was not only impacting the Canopy applications, but also our customers' day-to-day life. The cover picture shows the Great Migration, which shows the movement of vast number of wild beasts accompanied by large number of zebras and gazelles between Tanzania and Kenya. Drawing a parallel, we had to migrate real users from our own authentication layer to Amazon Cognito without disturbing the momentum or causing a downtime. The animals travel a total of 800 kilometers or more. Our great migration took nearly 6 months. The animal migration may seem like a chaotic frenzy of movement. However, the research has shown a herd of wild beast is operated by swarm intelligence, where the wild beast systematically explores and overcomes an obstacle as one. We as Canopy in our great migration won over obstacles as one organization. The reason why zebras and wildebeest graze in harmony is because they each eat different parts of the same type of grass. We were able to recognize oneness of the goal early on, and it helped us solve together. You are looking at our legacy authentication system. Our authentication layer was a set of custom-built Rails APIs. It was robust and secure, but was very specific to one application. We faced challenges in extending the same to our other applications. It was also part of a larger code base, and that meant we felt tremors when earthquakes came visiting. Even if we wanted to carve out our legacy authentication system as an independent module, the return on investment would not have been as good as our scaling ambitions. If we had to scale and our client's experience had to become better, authentication served as an entry point, and it had to become better. For this, we realized we had to do the obvious, maintain a decentralized service responsible for all the above tasks with high throughput. Our customers are dependent upon us to look at reliable, correct data so that they can take data-driven investment decisions which can have a huge impact on who they are and who they will be. We had mainly three considerations: supporting scale, less maintenance, and decentralized. The system would be responsible for all user-related scenarios such as account creation, authentication, rights extension with user identification, etc. across all Canopy applications. We looked at alternatives as seen in the slide. AWS uses Amplify to provide a better SDK integration for mobile, and this satisfied one of the criteria. Another region which worked in Amazon's Cognito's favor was a very neat integration with API Gateway, which we are using at this moment. To top it all, AWS support is legendary. Being a startup, we always have a trade-off, and we wanted one less pain to deal with. Amazon Cognito being part of the AWS ecosystem, which Canopy extensively planned to use, seemed like the right choice. This is how our authentication system architecture looks now. We used migration triggers to gradually move users to the Cognito pool and phase out our old authentication layer. We have one dedicated pool for every environment. The auth token has other useful details which is used by applications to achieve more in less number of API calls. As you all can see, we have extended Cognito's abilities via custom lambdas. I am pleased to cover more details in slides ahead, so any of you considering or looking to build a Cognito-based authentication layer can benefit from our experience. We faced some challenges in Cognito's implementation, and we found workarounds to win over all the challenges thrown at us. This particularly was an interesting problem to deal with. Cognito provides an auth token and a refresh token upon authentication. Auth token has 1 hour validity and refresh token has 24-hour validity. That means if someone keeps using refresh token, user can keep their session alive for 24 hours, and we as Canopy would not have been able to expire his session. Only way to partially achieve our objective was to use global signout, which would have meant that particular user would be signed out globally from all our applications/sessions. Being a company who deals with investment data, we had use cases where we needed user session to be curtailed, and we were not able to achieve that with standard Amazon Cognito. So we extended Cognito by implementing a custom Lambda authorizer layer. Authorizer keeps track of auth time token attribute and uses that to deny access beyond a set timeout period, despite having a valid refresh token. This slide deals with password management, which is one of the information security requirements in the regulated world. We compulsorily expire our user's password after 90 days and do not allow them to reuse 5 last used passwords. In default Cognito setup, we were not able to achieve both these functions. Canopy uses a custom Cognito user attribute to track password change date. Then our login lambda forces a password reset if the user tries to log in after 90 days. Password reset lambda stores hashes of all old passwords in database and disallows reuse by comparing the new password hash with the existing hashes in the database. This slide deals with brute force, which is one of the oldest tricks but still works if you give it enough time. Cognito has an advanced security feature which considers a lot of extended security measures but does not have a definite way to block repeated wrong password attempts. This was an information security requirement and also a compliance issue. We extended Cognito functionality by a pre-authentication lambda trigger which keeps track of login attempts and time in a custom attribute. And then authentication lambda uses that information to allow or deny login after 5 incorrect attempts for 30 minutes. This slide covers how we extended token validity functionality in Cognito. Auth token continues to be valid until its validity period, which is an hour, even after sign out. We brought in a logout lambda which blacklists the token by storing a hash of the current auth token in Redis. Upon request, the authorizer checks if the token is blacklisted in Redis and denies the request if condition is met. Here, we are showcasing how we achieved server-to-server communication in Cognito, which again is a customized extension. We built a custom plugin for HashiCorp Vault to securely manage and distribute rotating JWT access tokens to servers and other backend applications to authenticate with our API. Not every migration succeeds, but this one has indeed scaled nicely. As you can see the numbers mentioned on the screen, we had no downtime and maintenance hours are down to minimal. The success of the migration can be gauged from the fact that we launched a new B2C product and were able to support authentication, including via social logins, within no time. We struggled a little with less documentation for such an extensible product like Cognito. Though support from AWS on ground was excellent, others could really benefit in their implementation with better documentation, use cases, and inclusion of more features in advanced security. Currently, it's not very clear about the cases when Cognito would block a sign-in and about what could make Cognito think a user is high or medium or a low risk. We work in a highly regulated industry and our use cases have evolved which we may not have got ready-made anyway in any other application. Re-architecting, planning right, including steps like migrations, helped us to reach our objective. Last but not the least, support is very crucial. One of the decision points was support from AWS and they have been true to that expectation. So you can rely on that. Our overall wish list for Cognito is that it helps us to get rid of all the workarounds which we have in place by native features. Few of the requests which were on the roadmap are already delivered and we look forward to others, specifically IDP-led authentication, SHA2 support and better documentation. Thank you again for attending and I hope this has been useful. Canopy gets benefited by the open source world and we plan to give back our customized Cognito layers for anyone's uses. Handing over to Kim. Thank you.
If you would like to learn more about attribute-based access control, as well as Amazon Cognito, please head on down to AWS Training and Certification and look through the security resources that we have there. Until next time, stay safe and keep building.